Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a while, and I wanted to start off with a bit of a correction or an apology, or maybe just I want to keep myself accountable, because I'm not sure if you guys realize what today is the 1 month anniversary of. But 1 month ago, I thought it was completely over after seeing images of Trump getting shot.
Okay.
Exactly 31 days ago at the rally, and I thought truly it's over. And I know in past episodes we talked about the U.S. and we said it's over. Trump is going to win by a massive landslide, and how Vice President Harris is going to do really, really, really badly. And she has no chance, and Biden is the best chance of that too. Proven completely wrong. Harris is now winning the polls. No one remembers Trump almost got assassinated.
See, that's what I said though. In the video after,
and we're in a whole different world.
After Trump got shot, I said on this show, it will not move polling numbers at all. It will not affect polling numbers in the slightest. And look, I was right yet again.
Yeah, actually, it's crazy how fast that disappeared.
Because
this is not an apology to the mainstream audience. This is an apology directly to Bennett.
I was once again proven correct.
Because I thought that would move polling numbers. It didn't.
No, of course it did. Trump got shot. You're telling me now for the first time. No one remembers that shit.
And Bennett's cutting out. I'm in hell. I'm in hell. Oh, okay. I'll figure it out in post. I've worked some magic before. Yeah, I gotta say, I was pretty fascinated to see how much of a pull through Harris.
Harris?
Yeah,
you got
Harris.
it.
I keep thinking Mike Harris, and I'm like, that's not right.
Dude, you're too local politics brain. You're too local politics brain if you're thinking Mike Harris instead of Kamala Harris. Mike Harris hasn't been premier in 40 years.
I just keep fucking it up. I've been talking about Kamala Harris for a while. I haven't really been doing that much ranting about Mike Harris over the last couple weeks. It's fine.
When have we ever ranted about Mike Harris?
The amount of pull through that Kamala's had is pretty insane. I've ranted about Mike Harris a few times, mostly when dealing with long-term care stuff like that, privatization issues, yada yada. But fuck them. But yeah, I am interested in seeing where this goes, because what I didn't realize was that Trump's entire plan was just to face Biden and win. And I didn't realize that, he didn't have a backup gun. Usually he can just switch things out left and right, but I think this goes to show that Trump's also getting old. He's also showing his age.
Here's the thing.
Trump in 2015... Kamala Harris would have been up. She would have been ruined by now.
Thing with Trump is Trump's washed, all right? Politics is sort of like sports, right? Where there's kind of there's peaks and there's valleys, right? And as you get to the end of your career in a pro sport, right, the athlete, they tend to fall off, right? And eventually they have a season so embarrassing their career ends. That's the usual pattern, right? And then some athletes, they have a stellar rookie season. Right? We've seen that before. Trump might have had the best rookie season of any politician to ever do it. Right? He goes straight from not a politician to wins the presidency.
Probably.
He wins the presidency in his rookie season in politics. Yeah. That is unheard of.
And also, absolute banger. The quotables.
Yeah.
You know how memorable that run was? No, turn those lights off.
Listen,
just everything.
The fantasy guys, right?
And he's gone, man. What quotables has Trump dropped in the last?
Yeah, literally, right? We're having the same conversation they're having on talking basketball on ESPN, right? It's literally his first season. Trump comes in, he drops banger after banger, easy rookie of the year, easy MVP, wins the presidency in his rookie season, right? Crazy stuff. He's putting up the most...
Yeah, MVP.
Yeah, he's putting up banger numbers.
3-point
But what has he done since then? What has he done for the Republicans since then? He's lost them local elections because his Supreme Court picks trashed the Republicans in the 2022 midterms, and now he's floundering against easy target.
It turns out when he did the sports swap to local politics, when he did the sports swap to local politics, he's more of like a Michael Jordan type than a Bo Jackson.
Exactly. His local politics game is not great. Kamala Harris, right? Kamala Harris, rookie Donald Trump. Do you think he'd have trouble with Kamala Harris? No. It would be a wipe. We're talking 49 states.
No.
Trump wins every state but California in his rookie season if he's against Harris. And now he's not. Now he can't even win Michigan. It's over. It's over.
Yeah. I don't know how it went from it's so good to it's over. Now I'm gonna hold out. We're still in the preseason, you know. There's still time. They haven't really gone. They haven't gone toe to toe. They haven't gone bar for bar, blow for blow. So I want to see what happens when he kind of gets his feet working. I'm thinking maybe he's still warming up, but I don't think his body has it in there anymore. I don't think the reflexes are up to snuff.
I think we're solidly in the regular season, but his picking J.D. Vance for vice president, that's the equivalent of like a pitcher throwing like 12 earned runs in an inning, or like that new quarterback for the Lions who threw like 4 interceptions in his first game last week. It's like, what are we doing? J.D. Vance, what are we doing? Like, that is our vice president pick?
This is like when you line everyone up against the wall and you go pick for pick, and like someone picks their friend's new girlfriend so she doesn't feel excluded from the group. Like, come on, buddy. Like, get your skills up, you know? this is ruthless. We give birth on the sidelines.
This is real politics. Men are shitting on the field. Men are shitting on the field. Men are giving birth on the field.
Oh my god!
All right.
You know, actually, not giving birth on the field. In fact, that's like the only thing that they've figured out about Kamala is that she is certified not giving birth on the field.
That is true.
And like, that's got to be one of the weakest things.
They've been criticizing her for being an evil stepmom. That's like their avenue of attack. But to be fair, Kamala's avenue of attack is that they're weird, this is like might be the most idealistic election in like a century. Like Trump isn't even attacking Kamala on the.
It's just fine.
Yeah, he's not attacking Kamala on like the job numbers or the economy or anything. He's attacking her on being a stepmom, and then Kamala's not like, you made this shit economy. She's like, you're an odd person, right? It's all vibes at this point.
Yeah. No, I think I honestly I was watching some FD Signifier recently. And I think he has got this election down pat. This election is going to be purely decided among racial interest groups, all right? But not just like strictly like white people versus black. Like, that's a part of it. But we're also going to like white suburbanite moms, I think, and stuff like that. Because Trump did, in his second election, did better in like every minoritized group. I don't think that's going to happen with Kamala.
Yeah, Trump had improved his numbers with every minority group and lost. Okay, here's the thing, though. Here's why the J.D. Vance pick. All right, now we're getting back to talking basketball, right? Here's why the J.D. Vance pick might not be bad ball sense, right? Because in 2020, when Trump was facing Biden, he gained with every minority group and lost with white men, right? He even gained with women and lost with white men. But in 2024, the J.D. Vance pick might be going for the white man vote, right? Might be trying to shore up his numbers. But the thing is, I think he's still washed, right? Like, when we're at this stage in his career, he's flaming out. There's no VP pick will save him.
Look, any good basketball player, even in their twilight years, should be able to land white women reliably, all right?
I'm just saying, Trump is not LeBron. Trump's not LeBron, right? He's not LeBron, he's not Brady. Tom Brady and LeBron, they're putting up insane numbers. They're putting up like MVP numbers 20 years into their career, right? How long has LeBron been in the game? Like 15 years? Tom Brady was playing in football for like 20. They were still putting up elite numbers at the end of their careers. Trump, candle that burns bright,
Can't do it, man.
Burns fast, right? He's 8 years in, and he's already floundering.
Now, I do want to clarify that the polls show that it's more or less a statistical tie with a slight lean to blue. So it's not like it's completely over yet.
Here you are breaking out the calipers for the race science while we're going on vibes alone. All right.
Yes, Shrey, is this your first day working for ESPN? This is real
basketball.
Yeah. Is this your first day at ESPN? We're not quoting stats.
Look, there's always the guy that breaks out. Like, I'm watching my sumo, and some guy breaks out the calculator where he's like, "Oh, he won the last 4 out of 5 bouts. You know, he has like a good left-hand outside grip that the other guy seems to like let loose or whatever." And then I sit there and I'm like, "Watch the big guys go. You know, watch the big dogs."
You know what's the political theory for what you're saying is momentum. She just has momentum. And she's just gonna win.
Shrey, you gotta understand. Why do you think people are watching Stephen A. Smith because of his stats knowledge, or because he's funny? Right? It's because he's funny.
All right, we pray we get that in post, but I believe. No, I think. But here's what I want to see. Is like you said, we're straight. I said we're preseason. Yeah, we are in the regular season. You're absolutely correct with that analysis there, but it's still like Kamala's just fresh off the bench. She was bench warming for the first section, wasn't really doing anything, and still managed to sneak through like a couple blunderish plays, but nothing too significant. Nothing that really had legs, you know? People have mostly kind of forgotten about that. People are talking, but the new outpaces the old. So I want to see, how's her cardio, how's her stamina, as push gets to shove, as men start giving birth on the sidelines, as dicks go into places that you wouldn't even believe, how do the legs keep moving?
Sunshine doesn't exist.
And that's what I really want to see with
this election.
I spoke too far when I'm talking about a woman running for president. I got to take this back. It still stands, but think about this only for men, all right?
This election, it sort of has like an NFL vibe, right? Where you've got sort of two quarterback.
You were saying, Bennett?
Trying to reconnect.
Oh, is Bennett down?
One sec.
All right, we have a torn ACL at the announcer table.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was saying this election sort of has a quarterback, like an NFL vibe to it, right? So there's two sort of quarterback drafting strategies, right? There's the teams that have a mediocre quarterback and they draft a guy who's promising but not all the way there yet. Right? They try to develop him in the back. They put him second string. They throw him in for a few quarters, especially in the preseason, till they develop like a good franchise quarterback in the future. Mm-hmm. And then the second strategy is just balls to the wall, draft a guy straight up. Just draft a guy, throw him in as your starter immediately. Right? And I think that the Republicans, they drafted Trump in 2016, and they thought, there's our franchise guy. They're not willing to give up on him. Meanwhile, the Democrats have sort of this more methodical quarterback like psychology. And they're willing to put Harris, like they put Harris in second string for years, and now they think she's developed. They're putting her in first string, and frankly, the numbers are showing she's ready, right? Like you can't deny she's up against one of the GOATs, Trump, and she's already pulling ahead, right? I think it might be her year.
Yeah.
Let me try switching networks here.
All right, I can't lie, I've missed 2/3 of this. I tried turning off the cameras, and it got more reliable when it was on, but it was still like pretty consistent, like 1 second on, 2 seconds off, 1 second on, 2 seconds off. Quite the
adventure. Right. Well, you'll hear it in post. Let me switch networks here.
Yeah. All right. I'm kind of sad that I missed most of that because you were popping the fuck off.
I was just saying, I was going over the two quarterback strategies, and I was saying, Republicans, they got success in the draft in 2016, and they think that they can go just with their franchise guy, whereas the Democrats have had a more methodical development strategy where they put a mediocre QB in charge, Biden, for 4 years while they develop their backup. Now they're willing to put her in, and she's putting up good numbers. That was the thesis.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's You know, Trump had a stellar rookie year, but then, you know, tore his ACL. Partial tear, not too bad. So they took him, benched him for a couple of years. And we're seeing how he's doing with rehab. But now the age is getting up there, and we all know how that age affects performance. You know, you only have so many great years.
Exactly.
So, you know, but it is kind of exciting. It is kind of exciting, I gotta say. It went from, I remember when we were talking with one of our favorite guests that we have on here frequently, Harrison, and he was saying that as we spoke, it went from like this like drunk party vibe under Trump to like this just hangover of Biden. And now it does kind of seem like we're coming through for a stronger regular play, you know? We're going to see a little bit of an oddball on the Republican side, as they always do. We're going to see someone who's pretty boring on the Democrat side, but like, I feel like we are kind of back to normal elections for America.
Well, it's cool because, you know, not too long ago, none of the fans were coming out for the team. People were in the bleachers, but really just watching highlights and nothing else. Mm-hmm. Now, however, now that they swapped out quarterbacks, it's completely different. You know, people are coming in, people are buying special tickets, everyone is donating like crazy. Yeah. It feels like there's an election.
Yeah, that actually I think might be Harris's biggest weakness is the fact that it's like people are excited for her right now, but how will people feel in like a month, right? I'm afraid that there might be a bit of a burnout on Harris because she's just not exciting, right? Like it's not like this isn't a Bernie or even like a Hillary Clinton. This is like she's just not exciting. I'm sorry. It's like a month from now. I feel like she's more interesting than Hillary. Like I would say she is more interesting if you're like plugged in and follow like how zanned out she is all the time. But like in terms of like how historic the election feels, I feel like it felt way more historic in 2016 than it does now. Right?
Absolutely. Well, 2016 was also the ultimate generational run in a presidential race.
Yeah.
Like that was
it was Hillary against
potentially Trump. Like never going to happen again type run.
True.
Yeah, it was Hillary against rookie Trump. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Now Trump's washed out. It's not as interesting anymore.
Yeah, the big institutional person with all the institutional support and all of that versus the wild card that was just chucked in the deck for fun to see what happens, you know, to spice it up, and the wild card just kept pulling through to win.
All that said, I found this online from the Hollywood Reporter, famous news rag, and I thought it was hilarious how scary this is. I'm going to send you guys in the Discord if Uncle, if you can somehow put this on as a thumbnail.
Sure.
But here it's it's a commentary about how it's Silicon Valley and Trump versus Hollywood and Kamala Harris, and how both sides are leading the vanguard.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley and Trump connection is a bit weird because JD Vance, he's not a Silicon Valley guy in the sense that he's not like a tech entrepreneur, but he is connected to Peter Thiel, like a lot.
Well, he's a VC. He's like an actual VC. Like he's the guy who funds the tech entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but he's not like an entrepreneur.
Okay, so. I found, what was it? I was doing I guess I get half my takes from FD anyways, but Kamala is kind of a very strange case as well because, you know, she's a black woman coming into politics in America, which is, like, to me, be this far is an obscene rarity already. And I think what's going to happen is as things continue, as people keep on looking at her, stuff like that, as her run goes, people are going to realize that, like, she's not going to be a kind of progressive, radical, look for change kind of person. Yeah. She's going to be politically almost the same as Biden with the Democratic
Party.
That's why Biden
chose her, though.
Just with, like, a fresher face. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's why Biden chose her, right? Because like Biden in 2020, he said, "I'm gonna nominate a black woman for vice president," right? And he nominated Kamala Harris over Stacey Abrams, the much more progressive, mainstream alternative for black female VP candidates. And I think that should have been like a signifier to people that Kamala is not like a Bernie-crat or like a left-wing Democrat.
But at the same time, if you're doing politics in America, you know, if you are trying to pull through as like an outsider, like as kind of an political outsider, you're a black woman, you know, you're not generally going to, if you want to make it to the top, you can't lay on the sauce for progressive policy. You just do end up trying to play that game. So there is like a chance that she is more progressive than we would currently imagine, but we just don't see it because she's playing the game, which could come out in presidency or it could not. And I think that's going to be a big judgment call.
That sounds like cope, to be honest. It sounds like we're projecting.
Is there going to be any changes to her belief now that she is kind of running in a spot where she has some actual like hegemonic power? Probably not immediately when she's running for presidency, but I am interested in seeing would anything pop up if she wins it. I doubt it.
No. Absolutely
but there's
not.
just enough mystery
Absolutely
that I think it could play to her favor.
Like an Olivia Chow, per se, where we had no idea what she was going to do, but everyone just kind of believed her.
Can you guys hear me fine? Can you hear me fine? Okay. Okay, all right. I'm back.
This is the best Wi-Fi connection in Ottawa.
I was saying that, like, I don't think Kamala is, like, sort of like a left-wing... Kamala's not sort of like a left-wing sleeper or anything.
Yeah.
Like, she has, like, a career in... She was a prosecutor, right? And she, like, her prosecutorial record bears out that she's just a standard liberal. She's not, like, some, like, Bernie Crowd in disguise or anything like that. There's a lot of, like, more progressive black women that Biden could have nominated that he just didn't.
Yeah.
And I think he chose Kamala for a good reason. Like there's like Kamala, I think, bears out the Biden political project. She's not like some, like, I don't think she tricked him in 2020 is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think she did. But now that she is kind of more on her own, I want to know if she will do something more on her own or whether it will just continue to be exactly the same. Because usually, like, even if it's pretty close, there will be a couple changes as people adapt something to themselves, you know?
I'm just not holding my breath.
Yeah, I don't think we should.
I'm not holding my breath either, but I think that's going to be like a part of what kind of defines it. Is now that Bernie is gone, a lot of people are Bernie. Now that Biden is gone, a lot of people are going to, like, vote that we're not planning on voting potentially. But she, like, Biden, if she just goes out and keeps all the same policy on everything, the steam is going to go away. So I think she does need to change some stuff, probably for the long game, but we just need to see what it is and how much it is. I
think she might try to bluff her way through that, because we've already seen that on Israel policy, right? Where it's like she's sort of signaled that she's going to take a more left-wing stance on Israel-Palestine, but then her actual behavior has been a little bit more conventional, let's say. Yeah. I think she might try to fake it till she makes it, but I'm not sure it will work. But the thing is, I don't think she should be too concerned about it, because it's like if the far right, if the Republican Party pisses off the far right won't vote for the Republican Party. They'll just stay home. If the Democratic Party pisses off the far left, I think a lot more far left people are willing to hold their nose and vote. And I think she might be aware of that.
Well, there's the extreme fear of Trump, which still persists to this day.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think we beat this topic to death.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next thing, just give me like 1 minute.
Okay.
I do know that on a local level, there's I'm not sure if you noticed this, but the Liberals have started calling the Conservatives weird.
Yeah.
And I started adopting those tactics like crazy. Like Trudeau's like, saying that Pierre should touch grass and all that.
I'm back.
Hi, back.
I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I mean, there's a very obvious comparable with the U.S. where Biden left, they replaced him with somebody else, polls shot up. Wonder what would happen if they do that here.
If they do Trudeau versus swap him out.
I think so much hate is directly aimed at Trudeau.
Yeah.
I think so much hate is directed at Trudeau that it probably would help them a bunch. But I feel like them not going too ham, because that's what the NDP did, was going too ham on being memeable, and it did not work out. But I think if the Liberals add just a little bit of kind of half-tame name-calling, it would probably help them out.
Well, I mean, Ben, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but Trudeau started calling Pierre weird and started saying things like you should touch grass and whatnot.
I did see that, but that flopped, I think. I mean, the touch grass moment was kind of like a viral moment, but I don't think it will do anything to the polls. Yeah. Like, Trudeau's getting blown the fuck out, and frankly, I don't think our Liberal replacement will do any better. It's different.
Well, there isn't an obvious replacement like there is in the U.S., right? I mean, we have a deputy prime minister, but a deputy prime minister is hated.
I mean, okay, honestly, the depth chart, back to the sports analogy, the depth chart up here is way deeper than in the U.S., right? You've got Melanie Joly, you've got Mark Carney, you've got Chrystia Freeland, whereas in the U.S., what do they have? Kamala Harris? Not exactly the most inspiring backup, right?
Yeah.
But, like, the fact of the matter is, I don't think there's anyone you could swap out in Canada that the Liberal Party will win with, and I don't think anyone in the Liberal Party is willing to take the fall on the next election. I just don't see that happening. Mm-hmm. And, like, the thing is that, like, Trudeau is a young guy, and he's, like, coherent, right? The thing is, people don't like the material conditions in Canada.
Yeah.
And in the United States, the biggest complaint with Biden is that he's, like, literally, like, demented. Which is why people were like...
most people, like, probably would have sucked it up and voted for Biden if he was not, like, literally aging to the point of incoherent.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think this is just a completely different situation up here, and I don't think there's a Kamala Harris, like, poll switch waiting for us up here.
Well, to be fair, we said that about Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but I don't think it will happen. I don't Trudeau will not step down because he knows no one in the Liberal Party wants to take over.
I don't think people, like, are so emotionally invested in Canadian politics to let that big a swing happen. Like, I think it could go better, but I still think the best it could possibly go is just, like, still not great but better. Maybe, as big a swing as you could get would be, like, maybe the Liberals pulling through to, like, the slimmest minority of all time or something, and that's if everything they touch turns to gold for a while. And that still would not be a big snap. I think there would be a little snap, and then they'd have to do it with, like, who would do it? Chrystia Freeland's out. People do not like her enough. Mark Carney could do it. He's just boring. Like, I don't think he would be able to pull through in the long run.
He's also too smart to destroy his career on October 2025. Right, October 2025 is going to be a Liberal embarrassment, and I don't think, like, Melanie Joly and Mark Carney are too smart and have too good a future in the party to blow it on 2025.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, like what you were saying, Uncle, about the emotional investment, people are just not scared enough of Pierre. They should be, but he's just not very scary, like President Donald Trump was.
Yeah, he's a little angsty, but he's not truly obscene.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, anyways, on the material conditions of Canada, because this is just kind of what I wanted to, I'll say, vent about, because over also let me hit you guys up. I wasn't on vacation forever. It's been a long time since we last got an episode out. We have recorded, but my laptop broke, and then I took it to this, like, repair place, got it back, and then it broke again, and that has happened 5 times. So it has just been, like, pretty terrible on that front. And now also, like, some of the news that we've recorded is just out of date, so I might drop some snippets, but, like, a lot of the full episodes is just, like, news from a month ago. because my computer is broken so much that I have not been able to do anything with it. And then I'll get like an hour use and it'll break again. And then I took a little vacation and now I'm coming back. But yeah, in the time that we were gone, there was a huge crash that had repaired itself by the time we got back. So first I'll just cover that because it's kind of funny where the world economy now is based on like free money glitches for rich people, you know? And well, yeah, here's one thing. Japan is a stagnant economy and has for like 30 years. And they've done the whole thing that a central bank is supposed to do according to like the neoliberal / liberal project, which is just lower the interest rate. So they've lowered it to 0 or negative, where they're paying people to take out Japanese loans and shit. And essentially, yeah, they just give out infinite free money. And it has not worked to stimulate their economy. But people who do a bunch of trading, who do currency trading, foreign exchange swaps and stuff like that, will use this free money to start spurring up a bunch of investment potential and stuff like that and just shuffle money around to make more money. So the Japan's currency started failing, and then they increased their interest rate a little bit, saying, hey, the money is not completely free anymore. And then the people running all of these foreign currency swaps were now like $200 million in debt suddenly, and then had to close a bunch of positions, which then just like crashes the market a little bit temporarily, but then Japan's currency recovered. So you get a billion red thumbnails when you scroll through YouTube, but essentially nothing happens, and because nothing happens, nothing happened.
But the U.S. economy had a downturn briefly as well when the shock hit the U.S. Because at the same time as the Japanese currency crisis was happening, there was also a jobs report that said the U.S. was way over its unemployment targets. It's sort of a similar situation to Canada, where Canada's latest unemployment report put us at above 6% total unemployment, which caused like a brief downturn in the U.S. market that has since also recovered, which is like semi-related because it sort of happened at the same time as the Japanese thing, but sort of also different.
Yeah. Well, like they are somewhat connected because the people that are doing foreign exchange swaps will be all over the world, so it will have ripple effects. But that alone won't crash an economy. But like that on top of like unemployment numbers going up and seemingly not being able to stop going up, on top of a bunch of like ramblings about the AI bubble probably popping somewhat soon potentially, where it's like there was a big study done and it came out that if people see that a product uses AI, they are less likely to buy it than they were before.
That's what I was going to talk about. Like, on top of the U.S. job numbers going down, the Japanese interest rates changing up, Goldman Sachs, one of the world's most powerful banks, put out a 25-page report explaining how AI is not very useful, or at least the generative AI right now is not very useful, and I think it's something like 30 times the cost to do a ChatGPT request and do a Google search or something like that, and it's just way too expensive to make any money. I think OpenAI is losing $5 billion this year, which is insane. Yeah. So where Goldman Sachs has said, we're in a bubble, which has crashed the tech sector, which was the only like 6, if I remember correctly, there's only 6 or 7 in stocks that are like keeping the NASDAQ up for a while, and those are all tech companies. Now they're crashing too because they're all so into generative AI.
I could rant about generative AI.
Also, like, the tech sector has already done 500,000 layoffs over the last couple of years. So tech is already not looking hot. Spare this AI bubble.
Yeah.
The thing with tech, there's 2 things I'm going to say here. The first is that it's like, as a person who, by the way, last week published a paper in machine learning, so I'm now an expert accredited.
Congrats.
I hate generative AI so much because it is the most boring branch of machine learning, and it is like the only thing anyone cares about. And it's like, this is like the worst branch. First of all, it sucks ass. Second of all, it is like it takes like 1 trillion parameters to do anything interesting with it. And like, Like, when you think of, like, an AI future, you're thinking robots and shit. That's reinforcement learning, not generative AI. I'm sick of generative AI. It's garbage. And then the other... Sorry, for those who are unaware, I am now a published reinforcement learning scientist. The other thing is that it's like tech had like a 20-year integration into the industrial economy where it was like didn't exist and then exploded into relevance, and it was hiring like millions of people, and now I think tech is starting to integrate into the normal conditions of production, and is starting to, instead of just going up and up and up and up and up until it hits its real market cap, it has sort of already hit its real market cap and is now going to start going up and down as you would normally expect from productive labor, right? So like I think there's still this like archaic mindset where the tech industry is expected to just go up infinitely instead of stabilizing like a normal mode of production would.
Well, it's the mindset that is like the bailout for people talking about like capitalism on a limited planet or whatever. Oh, you cannot grow infinitely on a finite planet. And people will say you can, it'll just be different. Maybe instead of like just mining more, it will be more tech involved. So in order for that to be the case, tech needs to grow exponentially forever, which we might be seeing the end of. Or like tech always does this, where there was big data, and big data was this thing where if you gather enough data, you'll be able to predict things and it becomes profitable after a while.
But Gen AI,
they
Gen
put
AI
money and money into it, got investment, and then it didn't do anything and it never became profitable. So slowly big data disappeared, and then AI emerged, and it was, AI, it costs so much money, but once you do it enough, it will eventually become profitable. And then I think people are slowly realizing, this AI doesn't do anything. We've just made a bunch of glorified chatbots, and I think that is going to phase it out, but there's nothing to replace it yet. So yeah, I do think we are coming into something.
So I don't think that's the case. I mean, big data did do a lot, right? Big data was a really, really important part. Big data is still a very, very important part of a lot of different things, but it just...
The question is,
I agree with Stray.
Really?
I agree with Stray. Is that it's like... here's the thing, though, Spencer. I think there's this expectation every time there's like a new development in tech, whether it's big data, which is actually like statistical learning and analysis, or AI, or anything like that. I think the only exception to what I'm about to say might be the blockchain, which legitimately might be completely useless. There's like this discovery where something in tech is made that it's like, this has XYZ usage, and then people who are not familiar with the tech are like, it can do everything, and then they get disappointed when it doesn't do everything. But that tech still gets integrated into the economic ecosystem, right? Even though Gen AI is a bubble and it will pop, it's not going anywhere. Like, there are uses for it that are very specific, like image generation is actually legitimately useful technology, and there are certain uses for large language models that are legitimately useful, but a large language model is not like the singularity apocalypse. It's not the thing that will completely reshape the economy, right? People are expecting this insane like change in the fundamental aspects of production that none of these technologies will create, and this will happen over and over again, where the new tech will come out, gets overhyped, bubble pops, but then that new tech doesn't go away. Big data is still around. Like data is still being analyzed like crazy, and the only reason there even is an AI bubble is because of big data, right? Large language models are based on these big data scraping like enterprises.
Okay, so you've actually stumbled on to kind of what I wanted to say, was that AI is possible because of big data. I think that big data in itself actually has done much less than, like, not just, the promise of it will solve everything, but the whole concept of big data has done a few things, but I don't think it's done that much that you couldn't have done with, like, just a little bit of management of significantly less data, spare just, like, creating this whole surveillance thing, which is like still not even used or anything. But now there's AI that's built on top of big data. Hey guys, it finally did this big thing that we were all expecting it to do, and it just hasn't. Like, there are cool things that it does do, but I really don't I think we're just about to like hit this brick wall where this whole tunnel that we've been pouring investment into for like damn near like 20 years at this point has just been digging us farther and farther into like this one hole that is like we're not hitting the other end. There'll be some use cases, there'll be some stuff we find on the way, but like I think so much of this is just going to be waste.
So I work on the other side, where I work with large language models daily, right? And that's my bread and butter, is these guys. I think how I see it is that big data is still huge, and it's not just in AI and everything, but how everything we do in biology and we do in the deep sciences, deep tech, is big data. A lot of the consumer work we do, even if we go into the less scientific and more flashy, just marketing, comes from big data at the end of the day. And there's a lot of cool things you can do with big data, but it can't do everything. And when it first came out, that's the way it was sold. I think the best analogy is still always going to be e-commerce, where when e-commerce came out, within the first 5 years, it exploded, right? It was doing everything. You wanted books, e-commerce. You wanted to buy a car, e-commerce. If you wanted to buy pet food, e-commerce. But no, that failed because that doesn't make sense. And then pets.com happened. 5 years later, the world was finally mature enough. Everything was starting to be set up. The foundations were laid down, where now e-commerce for pet food makes 100% sense. And e-commerce is just ubiquitous. And that's what happened with big data, where when it first came out, it did too much, was bubble, popped. Now it's mature enough where it's doing a lot behind the scenes. And I think that's what's going to happen with generative AI, generative models. But we're just not there yet. So right now we're still in the bubble about to pop phase.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the way we're going about this right now is going to do that, because like I think I've said this before, a lot of the stuff that we want this generative AI to do could just be done around as well with a decent algorithm. But when you use a decent algorithm, you wouldn't introduce this fundamental uncertainty. The big problem with all of this generative AI stuff is it will do your task, but there's like a 5% chance that it will just bold-face lie for a little bit, and it'll be really hard to find out where an algorithm is predictable and will do it. Also, my thing with big data is not that big data, like that data is useless. My question is, how much of the stuff that was done with big data would have been done just as well with just like a little bit of like concise data, as opposed to just trying to collect everything for love of the game?
I will answer with this is a Marxist podcast officially, so I will answer with a Marx quote. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I think we went on vacation together recently, and I read this to you out loud as I read it in Capital Volume 2, because it's such a banger quote. All nations with a capitalist mode of production are seized periodically by a feverish attempt to make money without the mediation of the process of production. I think that is what's going on with AI now, where it's like people who want to make money without doing anything are trying to make money on this thing. And this happens all the time. Like, it happened with crypto speculation. It happened with big data. Well, it's happening now with AI. But and you're right that there are frankly, there is like a mantra in machine learning that I think a lot of people now could really learn from, which is the first step in a machine learning problem is how can I solve this without machine learning, right? And only if the answer is I can't should you do it. And like there are examples of Gen AI where the answer is I can't, and that's stuff like image generation. There's no way around it where you could do good image generation without AI. But like you could do like a Google search without AI, right? Like that's obvious. We've been doing it for 20 years now. But like Yeah, it's just a bubble. But like that doesn't mean that AI itself is going away, or that like we're gonna get rid of it at some point in the future. It's here to stay, like most tech innovations. It's just every time there's a tech innovation, and I feel like we're repeating ourselves here, but every time there's a tech innovation, these parasites latch onto it and try to apply it to everything, thinking that it's the solution to absolutely every problem, when it really isn't.
Yeah.
It's a solution to a problem, not all problem.
All right. Well, that a little bit of a sidetrack.
Yeah.
What the fuck were we even talking about?
The Canadian economy.
We're about to get
the Canadian economy collapse.
Yeah. Anyways, it's been a good intro. It's been a good 52-minute intro. I think I'll do the AI ramblings as a little side episode or something like that.
No,
keep it in. This is going to be a 3-hour
I'll publish it, but okay. Yeah, we have some time to make up
for the last 3 weeks.
So I'll do my rants and just say my name if you want to stop me, because I have everything in a big note sheet, and I do tend to yap. I'm a big fan of yapping. And when I was away on my vacation with Bennett, as we've referenced a few times, every now and then I would check the news. And I got a new phone, so the algorithm hasn't picked up on everything yet, but it has picked up on one thing that I really do love, which is just generic economic babbling of people just talking about whatever the fuck is going on in the economy, because I love reading it and just thinking, oh my god, these people are fucking idiots, they have no clue what's going on out there. I am superior to them morally, I am superior to them based on my intelligence, I am physically superior to them. It really just makes me feel good. It puts me in a great brain spot that's definitely healthy, and I did a lot of that. The recent target of my viewing experience has been the Financial Post, which has come up with some of the hottest garbage I've seen recently. So what has happened in Canada? I predicted months ago what was happening with immigration was that the only thing that makes sense is that we are bringing in immigrants to stop there from being a recession on paper. We are essentially sacrificing everything to make sure that the GDP number grows by the most minuscule shred every other quarter to make sure that, on paper, we don't get a recession. Why? Because when idiots invest, or you show up your, numbers to the fucking World Economic Forum or the Big Three, whatever piece of shit are there, they'll look at it and you'll go, oh, we are the only G7 country that has completely avoided recession. And that's what they want, to show how we're a stable country. It's kind of Mark Carney-esque, I'll say. After 2008, we were a stable country. Even though shit did happen, it wasn't as bad as everyone around us. So what are they doing? The COVID crisis happened, there's a bunch of chaos going on everywhere and all of that, and we're trying to be stable. So, Financial Post. Let's go. What's it? Oh, I have a summary for this article. It says shit article that says we're not in a recession, even though it says we're in a recession. So I'm gonna hit some quotes with this. Canada's unofficial judge determining recession periods defines the term as pronounced, persistent, and pervasive decline in economic activity. The country doesn't seem to have met that criteria by the end of the third quarter. For one thing, the gross domestic product was revised upwards in the second quarter, and economists think another upward revision to the GDP is possible for quarter three. It fell 1.1% year over year in the third quarter, StatCan reported. At the same time, other economic data has been mixed, though it's mostly trending into weaker territory, aka all other economic data is garbage. It's not looking good. So they say, taken together, there's a chance GDP will have grown slightly in the fourth quarter. So that misses the definition of recession. Though, take note, They defined recession as pronounced, persistent, and pervasive decline in economic activity, and then slowly turned it into being technically the GDP is okay, therefore we're not in a recession. Which I thought they were gonna do good, you know? It was knocking on their door, but they can't hold it together. So then they continue, but the downturn was ultimately delayed amid tailwinds from strong population growth, which helped boost consumer spending. Though this is not a consumer's spending, this is only total consumer spending, which is like GDP versus GDP per capita, maybe. Which is kind of where the trickery lies here. So they say this is not the pandemic, when things were screaming obvious, but rather a very complex and highly unusual set of dynamics playing out in a contest of exceptional uncertainty. So, guys, I already know that we are your main news source, and since we haven't done anything, you haven't heard any news in the last month, alright? We're sorry for that, but nothing ever happens, don't worry. This is blaringly obvious, alright? If anyone tells you that this is not obvious, just yell at them for me. You could do that thing where it's like, what's that guy who had the TikTok videos where he would go up to people in expensive cars and just go, better than me! Yell at them like that.
Oh, that guy. That guy rocks.
Yeah. What?
I'm gonna add one more alternative hypothesis to the immigration thing. Now, I agree with you, but there is one alternative hypothesis, which is our one of the most expensive line items, and I believe it's increasing by 2 or 3x over the next 5 years, is old age pension. And I know I've said it so many times in this podcast and this show, but our old age ratio back in like the 70s and 80s, when things were popping off and the country was doing super well, was like 6 to 7, right? That means the amount of working class people and working age people to old age people who are not working and retirees was 6 for every old age person. 6 to 7. Now we're at a point where it's about 3. And so the combination of the low ratio plus the exploding number of retirees over the next couple of years, compounded by the fact that we had COVID-19, which led to a great resignation and retiring of people, has led our economic coffers in a really bad disarray, where we just have like no money to pay for pensions. And this doesn't help that the main retirement plan that people have is house prices being extremely inflated.
Yes.
So you can't crash that, because otherwise we're going to have a huge number of people who can't work because of their age and health problems, but still being under the poverty line. And so that was one reason why they also just shoveled in a crap ton of immigrants as well as international students to exploit in order to up that OAR.
Yeah. In other words, we're kind of trapped, you know? Like it's pretty rough out there. There's not a great outlook. And on top of not having a good outlook for the future, things are going pretty bad right now. It's almost as if we are in a recession. This is my thesis for the day, really. It's just that we are in a recession, and they are like, the only thing they can do to pretend we're not in a recession is avoid the definition, which is 2 straight quarters of reduced GDP.
No, this isn't. I will remind you, this is not our immigration episode.
Article 2. Bennett also called this one out to me on our vacation, which was from Financial Post. Canada is in the grips of a me session. Whatever the fuck that means. All right. So now we're inventing new words just for love of the game.
So that'll turn into a she session.
Holy moly!
She session is
not in Spencer's cut. Canada. All right.
He is, for those who are asking, he is looking for a partner if anyone wants to apply.
Oh, yeah. I guess he's kind of in a she session.
Dang.
I mean, he did date Taylor Swift for a while.
He did.
So.
He did. We haven't heard any new updates, so I'm assuming he's like on a slow fizzle of getting R-bombed.
R-bomb?
But like he still gets one message every like 3-4 days, so it kind of he gets that spark still, so he hasn't ended it officially. So this one says, collectively we are spending more and pushing economic activity higher, but individually we are restricting purchases and behaving as if we are in a recession.
It's called a recession.
So
it's called a recession.
We have no money. But if you keep on making it so that there are more and more people, the big GDP number can go up, which means we are in a recession in every way but the GDP. All right? Yeah. Immigration is just a way to stop a paper recession. Like, that's it. That is the whole point of this immigration. Actually, Shrey, we forgot the third theory, which I don't want to dive into right now. But the third theory for the immigration thing is the Great Replacement, which we should cover at some point. Yeah, I was going to say the Great
Replacement's the third one, yeah.
Yeah.
The Great Replacement is insanity. I don't even know what you give it air.
Also, Financial Post, I just want to say, we're not restricting spending because we aren't sure about the economic outlook of the future. People have no money because we're in a recession, all right? So if you take away the population boom, and Canada's economy would have slipped into recession last year, shrinking 1.6% in the third quarter of 2023 and 1.5% in the fourth, as the estimates all run. Almost like we're in a recession. They also say Alberta is even worse because Alberta's wages and income have failed to keep up with the rest of Canada, and they have the most indebted households. And then say, however, stronger population growth in Alberta compared to the rest of the country and the tailwind of high oil prices means that economic growth in the province outperforms the rest of Canada. So while it's a boom for Alberta's economy, residents aren't feeling it. I thought the economy was supposed to include the people.
That's the whole point of having an economy, is that everyone is prosperous. What are we doing?
If you have a prosperous economy where no one is prosperous, you don't have a prosperous economy.
Here's an alternative to that, though. Like, sure, and just an alternative. The individuals might be doing it worse off in Alberta, but the Alberta government now has more money than for a while before that they could use to invest into random projects, whether it be schools or hospitals or new shoes for the politicians. Doesn't matter, but they have more money.
But we don't do that. We don't do that anymore. So we might as well discount that possibility.
Yeah. Don't worry. In an article that I skipped, they specifically say that their suggestions are to not do that.
Oh, so okay. Never mind then.
You are correct. By all means, you are correct. You know, you're saying the right shit, but not according to the Financial Post. So when it says it's a boom for Alberta's economy, relatively speaking, residents are not feel it. My notes for this were, now read that again, now read it backwards, and now read the first letter in every word. All right, and now read that shit backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
All this supports our view that the Canadian economy is on the path to a soft landing. However, while the labor market behind the economy's resilience, any deterioration in the labor market should be monitored closely, he said.
This is how you know we're on the verge of like an actual crisis of capital, because like the Financial Post should be doomsaying about the Trudeau economy, where they're like, you have to vote Poilievre, otherwise the economy's gonna collapse. Instead, they're like, actually, there's nothing happening, nothing's going wrong. That means that they're actually scared.
Yeah, just keep looking at it, keep looking at the number. Yeah. Also, when people say deterioration in the labor market, when people say a good labor market and a bad labor market, I genuinely have no idea what they mean. Like, the thing about the labor market is it's just the market, it's the price of things. So when they say good, do they mean, prices in the market, aka the price of labor, is going up? This is good for all the workers. Or do they mean the prices of the labor market, the price of, labor, is going down, which is good for employers? This is good for the labor market. You could pick both at random and always say that it is always good. Or if you're a market purist, you can just say it's always good because the market put it in that place and the market's always good. Like, when you talk about the labor market like this, it's worthless. It has, like, I have no clue what they're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I've never seen it in a way that shows it's good for labor. I've always seen it the other way. And then the way they help to sell it to the middle class and those struggling to join it is that they change it up. So if you have a hot labor market, that means there's going to be high inflation.
But that's how they justified the TFW spike recently, right?
Yeah.
And like the ending the 6% unemployment rate restriction. I don't know if you know this, Spencer, but they recently deregulated temporary foreign workers even more. So you no longer need to have lower than 6% unemployment in the region you're hiring TFWs for. That restriction is just completely gone. Because, like, during COVID, they said, labor market's too strong, we need to suppress wages. They were openly saying we need to suppress wages. And now they got their wish, I guess. The unemployment's up, wages are suppressed, but the economy isn't fixed, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't you know it? It's still shit. Oh my god. They get all of their wishes, and it just sucks for everyone. As we keep experiencing, you look outside, it sucks for everyone. Like, no one is getting hired out there. Everyone says this shit. And these are, like, educated people, yada, 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 all of that. Like, it's just crazy. But yeah, they got their wish. They made things worse for the workers to be more favorable to employers. And you know what they said? If you make things more favorable to employers, they will invest and increase productivity. They got their wish, and you want to know what crisis we're in now?
Productivity crisis.
It drives you mad. It drives you mad. But our next article, I only read the headline because it reminded me of something Bennett said to me. Young Canadians left jobless amid influx of cheap foreign workers. I remember at one time Bennett turned to me and just said, they will sacrifice everyone under 35 to keep the GDP above zero.
No, I didn't even say that. I said they will crucify everyone under 30 to keep housing prices at $2 million a square foot. If that's what it takes.
Oh, yes.
Like, I know we talked about this, but this is one of the biggest wealth redistribution, where money is going straight into older folks and seniors, straight from our pockets.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of our money is just leaving us now in order to support larger and larger old age senior checks.
Yeah. So this is where the whole inequality thing comes in, I believe. That's what I would say. Because it's not just here. You know, this is not a Canada-specific thing. Canada is in crisis. Britain is in crisis. France is in crisis. Saying Britain's in a crisis is a little bit of an understatement. I think Britain at this point might be better off if they got nuked.
We'll talk about that later, but yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think the Keir Stalin episode got aired because my computer broke a million times. Well, we'll see what I can clip in here or something like that. But it's like pretty much the entire Vivest is in crisis. They got everything they wanted through like the neoliberal project, and it turns out it just didn't work. But anyways, I'll come up and on my last article about the Canadian economy. And it's not an article, but it's a YouTube series that the CBC does. Shrey, what was it called again? I forgot to write it down.
About that. Love those guys.
Oh, yeah, about that. And kind of what they do is they give, honestly, like half-decent summaries of things. But you know that we are the only news channel in Canada that actually reads what we're reporting on most of the time. So it's like... I watched their video on this, and they say Canada's economy is showing many hallmarks of recession, rising unemployment and bankruptcies, less consumer spending, and it's still growing. Andrew Chang explains this disconnect and what is behind it all. And he goes into this whole like per capita thing, again, where it's like, every person individually is worse off, but as a population, it's still growing because the population is growing so fast, with 95% of that coming through immigration. And it's like, they say there is no official term for it, but the unofficial term is a per capita recession. It's a recession, dog. This is the CBC. They're like the centrist take, you know?
Well, to be fair to them, the economists' official term for recession is a very specific thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two straight quarters of negative GDP growth. But that created this exact perverse incentive where they've made things even worse in this productivity crisis in the name of keeping us at 0.1% GDP growth quarter over quarter. Though I will say,
which is what
we have been
trying to outline.
Yeah, we have been trumpeting the Trudeauver alarms for the last year now, but latest projections put us at 2% GDP growth next quarter. So, are we Trudeau back?
It's never been better. I feel the money flowing into my pockets as we speak. Maybe our podcast is going to take off and we're going to get a sponsorship from those rhino pills or something. I kind of said what you said. If you make a statistic your measure for something, it ceases being effective at either of those jobs.
Goodhart's law, which is when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measure.
Yeah, okay, I used measure and statistic by accident. Okay, whatever. Yeah, if you make a measure or a target, it ceases to become a good measure. And what they've done for recessions was they have made one single measure their determining factor for what is a recession. So what would happen, though, if you had 2 straight quarters of GDP loss, but inequality came down, so most people had more spending money, and let's say you just killed all the landlords, they were able to use it as they wanted without rents just taking it over. This would be good for every worker. This would just be amazing for everything, but you would be in recession, that could happen. So now, what they talked about earlier, the hallmarks of a recession: rising unemployment, bankruptcies, and less consumer spending. Why do we not have those in as measures of a recession? Say, have a recession be 1, rising unemployment for 2 quarters, increasing bankruptcies for 2 quarters, lower GDP and lower GDP per capita over 2 quarters, and say if it's 3 of 4, we're probably in a recession or something like that. You could get a little elastic with it. Say maybe this one wasn't a recession because things were all right, and then this one that isn't on paper was because things were bad. We're allowed to do that, But instead they just picked one measure, and it's not even a good measure. In fact, the person who made the measure said it's not a great measure. So, Shrey's sending me links to all the people who do this, I'm pretty sure.
I just sent you the link of one of the most popular politicians you basically just quoted him a couple of times, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, and Andrew Yang, Yang Gang for life. And when I say life, I mean there were a few months back there. But yeah, Andrew Yang had some bangers. I'll read what Shrey's sending me. Traditionally, the economy has been measured by looking at the gross domestic product, GDP, or the stock market. Employment rates and household income are also used to measure how the average worker is doing. However, even the creator of the GDP admits that it doesn't really reflect the full story. And as economic inequality rises, holy shit, he's literally me for real.
Yeah.
And the fruits of society's labors accrue to fewer individuals, it's become obvious that we need to expand our definition of economic prosperity past a single number. The bottom 80% of Americans own only 8% of stocks, and rising GDP has virtually no relationship with a citizen's well-being.
And here's a list of things he recommends to use instead.
Yeah, and he just has a bunch of solid measures. We could read Donut Economics, you fuckers. Just look, this is the only podcast where 1, all of our listeners are sexually active, and 2, all our listeners can read. So, I figure you guys can figure that out. But Donut Economics. Donut Economics was actually a good book. I read it thinking I was going to make fun of it on this podcast for just being liberal drivel, where they were just like, oh, why don't we make the economy like have all these diverse measurements, but then not actually change anything, so then none of it would actually matter. But it actually did propose some real structural changes. But the summary of it is like, they have this ring, and there are excesses of the economy, like climate change, inequality, and stuff like that, that would be on the outside, where if they go too high, then you need to tone things down a little bit. And on the inside of the donut, you would have measures that are like, that can just go too low. So maybe like food insecurity could be on the inside. And then that is your new way of kind of having a good outlook on the economy. And it becomes a much more diverse balancing game, as opposed to just like putting an inflator into the stock market.
And so what's the conclusion for our economy then?
Yeah, we're in a recession. It's exactly what I called months ago, okay? And I mean, you probably could have called this years ago, easily. I just didn't have a podcast years ago, so I didn't have to think, you know? I could just make calls randomly every night, but now they actually get published. And yeah, what are they doing? We are in a recession, but they figured out that since there's only one measure that creates their target, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they only use one measure, and they found a way to hack that measure using immigration. And it's very easy to hack since it's just one measure. If there were a diverse number of measures, then maybe the hack they do would actually help people, but this hack very distinctively does not help people. And it's also given, as a side note, a lot of ammo to white supremacists who think that they're trying to replace white people and like destroy the white race and stuff like that.
Which is a happy accident.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy accident.
But in all seriousness, I've been thinking about the OAR for a while. I just don't know, how would you have solved the OAR situation, the old age ratio?
The old age retirement stuff? Yeah, it's tough, because it's like the thing with retirement, like the retirement age stuff, is that it's like there isn't really a solution to first world contracting fertility. Like, every attempt has been tried, right? Like, you can literally pay people to have kids, like the Netherlands, and it still won't do anything. The fact of the matter is, when presented with the choice of having kids or not having kids, most people just choose not to. And the fact that we've had a growing population for the past 300,000 years is because generally people didn't have a choice, and now they do. And there's no real ethical way to get around that. And I don't think we should try to get around it. I think we might just have to accept the fact that the population is going to contract, and that doesn't mesh with our infinite growth model.
And that leads to really awkward conversations, right? Because, for example, we promise old people pensions, which we can't give anymore, and so forth.
Yeah. Well, this is like part of the whole lie of our system. This is why so many people hate this economic system, is that you end up in traps like this, where if it does not just naturally grow exponentially forever, and if you don't manage that and find a way to make that growth like diverse towards everyone, it will end up crushing itself. And donut economics also goes into this, where like she said, anyways, what she says is like, we need to think that, you know, if the world is limited, then we can't have an infinite growth in our production. But also, we can't have an infinite growth of our population. We need to plan and understand and like create ideas for an economy in which the amount of people stagnates. And if the amount of people stagnates, like the population stagnates, then we also need to have plans for what happens when we reach the economic output capacity for those people and it no longer grows. We need an economic system that is able to handle that. And our current one is just not. We are hitting our limit, and we're finding that we can't hit this limit peacefully. It's impossible. So what is my solution for this? Well, you know, there's a reason there's a reason I run a communist podcast, all right? I don't think it's this.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Well, anyways, let's move on to more lighthearted news to wrap up today, I think. In more lighthearted news, the Carolina Panthers were almost put out of their misery after a...
Wow. Okay, I'm sorry, I just spoke for a long time, but I have to interrupt this. When Bennett sent me this article, I read that the entire Florida Panthers team had died.
No, Carolina Panthers, different team.
Or Fuck, okay, I read that the entire Carolina Panthers team had died, and the article opened by talking about how it was just after a 17-3 loss. And I thought it was rather insensitive of them to be talking about that. But, you know, they made it.
This is definitely win a Super Bowl.
See, the thing is, the Carolina Panthers last season they went. Okay, there are 17 games in a football season. The Carolina Panthers won 2 last year. They went 2-15. So they were almost given the sweet release of death and the opportunity to avoid the 2024 season last week when their Boeing 767 crashed on takeoff. Yet another incident in the growing list of the Boeing Chronicles that we have been covering on this podcast of just endless Boeing mechanical mishaps. Now, the NTSB has not said whether or not it was the plane's fault or the pilots or the fact that Tropical Storm Debbie had just hit Carolina. But what happened was the Carolina Panthers were about to take off from the runway when the plane failed to take off and crashed. Failed to take off and crashed, but no one was injured. So, yeah, not looking good for Boeing as per usual. But this really begs the question: what would have happened if the plane did kill the Carolina Panthers? And it turns out it would have triggered an emergency draft. And maybe the Carolina Panthers could have had a winning season this year. So if you're a Carolina fan, I will say. Thankfully, none of the players were injured. You know,
I want to.
But that's the latest in plain news.
This podcast does not endorse the killing of the Carolina Panthers. Just want to make it clear.
Also, don't I think the Carolina Panthers.
I gotta say, I get that because of all the woes of my life being oh so hard recently and oh so dramatic. We're not putting out episodes all the time for the last little bit, but at the same time, every time we put out an episode, another Boeing plane crashes. Some way. There's another scandal, another downed plane, something like that.
Frankly, I think Boeing might try to kill us. I think we might be next on the Boeing whistleblower.
Yeah. They might think that we are the curse.
Anyways, my sports betting lock of the century is Panthers go 0-17 this year because they've used all their luck surviving that plane crash. So bet against them in every game you can.
Yeah, we will. We'll keep you guys in the loop on the Panthers.
Yeah.
Here, Shrey.
Yeah.
Shrey.
Yeah.
I was just saying how every time we open our mouths, something goes wrong with a Boeing plane.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dog? Why?
So
why you gotta make me sweat like
I'm
this?
going on a Boeing plane in about 6 weeks from now.
Yeah.
I'm very excited because the trip is a little bit pricey, but I'm hoping to use Wealth Simple or one of the stock apps to hopefully avoid issues on the plane, and I can just short them before anyone else notices. This could be how I pay for the
shit, right? Yeah, that's awesome. No, I remember right in the middle of all of the Boeing stuff going on, I was flying out to a competition somewhere, and one of the girls, we were getting on the plane, she was like, is this the plane with all the bad stuff? I look at the plane, it's the exact plane where everything was going wrong.
The 737 MAX.
The 737 MAX?
It was the 737, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, and I sat there and I was like, oh hell yeah, like this is my shit, you know?
Yeah. More bad news for Boeing. That's our plane news of the week. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the race war has kicked off.
Yeah.
In a tragic story, a man attacked a Taylor Swift-themed dance class and stabbed 4 children to death in Southport, UK. The man was black. He was a second-generation Rwandan British person. He was a British citizen. His parents were from Africa. He was not Muslim. He was from a Catholic family. But when news broke that a black man had stabbed 4 British children, a crowd gathered outside of a mosque and attacked it, which led to a nationwide race riot in the UK. Over 1,000 arrests have been made. More than 50 cops have been injured. The British government has set up checkpoints around the country and has fast-tracked several court cases. There were already riot ringleaders who have been sentenced to like 5 or 10 years in prison over this. So many people are being thrown in jail that they have to release people who are already in prison. And the UK is continuing its slow disintegration that has been going on for the past 9 years now. It's not looking good.
Look, they elected someone who at one point promised some form of progressive policy. He gave all of it up before he got elected, but this is exactly what happens when you elect a progressive.
Sir Stalin, once again.
The thing is that it's like there's 2 observations I have here. The first is that it's like this situation has been brewing for a while. The UK has had some serious immigration tension for the past decade. Like, this is not surprising that something like this has happened. And then the second thing is that it's been pretty funny to see the right wing adopt like riots or the language of the unheard rhetoric. You know what I mean? Like when BLM was having protests in like 2020, left-wingers were pointing out that's like this was an inevitable result of over policing and stuff like that, and the right wing was like, no, we need to kill them all. Now in the UK, the right wing is like, oh, the white working class, the riots are the language of the unheard. They're only standing up finally after years of oppression by the far left radical woke government of the UK.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty fun to see.
Yes, the far left radical woke British government.
Yeah.
Which has been this way for so long, you know. We just got
but I will say,
Stalin, guys. Please let us sit for like a minute, you know. Let's sit for a minute.
Yeah.
What's terrifying?
But it's also like it's been pretty funny to see. Sorry, it's been pretty funny to see how fast the British government has cracked down on this stuff. Because it's like, as right-wing as the British government is in reality, there is nothing they hate more than uppity football hooligans. Or like uppity poor people. And the fact that this is all like basically the British lumpen proles is why they're cracking down so hard. They don't like this kind of shit.
Well, it's just impressive. Like, I mean, what? So there's this black guy, right, who killed him, Catholic family, yada yada yada. Within like minutes.
No, he was Catholic.
Yeah, Catholic. Yeah.
And then
within minutes, it was already out there that he was Muslim.
I would like to point out that he is not a representative of the British Catholic population. He comes from a Catholic family. The point is that he's not Muslim, which is what the rioters initially assumed.
Yeah, but it's just insane that, you know, like within minutes of the event happening and the horrific situation occur, that they immediately said, okay, it's a Muslim who did it, and then they immediately were like, it's a refugee who did it. And since then, it's been going on, and even though it's been debunked, it's still going on, and that's wild.
Right, because as I said, this is the result of like a decade of simmering tension.
Second-rate false allegations. All right, still, the absolute goat of these allegations was the New York Times talking about Trump's Chinese shooter.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Wait, what?
I think we covered that on the Trump
I don't remember
shooting
that.
episode, but
I think I brought
New
it
York
up.
Times initially
They almost immediately posted that the shooter was Chinese, and then had to take it down almost immediately as well. But yeah, you know, like you were mentioning BLM and the protests and all of that, is that there's this lack of, I don't want to be like a centrist here, but you can't like, if you want protests to happen when people are angry, you know, you kind of have to be like, yeah, I like protests. You know, like I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, okay, I get why these like riots are happening, you know? I think riots are like, I'm pro riot, I'll say that. I'm probably one of the few people who would make that case. But what you have to do instead is you have to say, oh yeah, I don't think like the reasoning behind this riot is good. And I hear what happens a lot is like you said with the BLM, one side was going like, oh, riots are the language of the unheard, and the other side was like, fuck you, we hate you, riots are stupid as shit. And now it's swapped, you know?
yeah.
And I just want some
think
consistency.
I think you and I are on the same page where it's like the BLM riots were good because they were against a bad thing, and these riots are bad because it's nonsense. It's like they're revolting over a literal lie.
Yeah.
Right? We got to get out of this liberal mindset. Like this literally like liberal mindset of riots are either always good or always bad. When people are rioting because of a reason I agree with, it's good. When people are rioting because of a reason I disagree with, it's bad. That's why BLM was good and this is bad.
Yeah, and I'm the arbiter of justice. I am who decides what is good and what is bad in this world. But also, it's because the reason this happens, like these people wouldn't care so much about all of this shit if the financial situation of like Britain and the UK was not
garbage,
a complete dumpster.
Yeah.
You know, like if people were living and their financial situation was fine, they would not be caring about race 24/7. They would probably just be grilling, for God's sake.
Yeah, no, exactly, right? Like,
so it's like
immigrants just...
the issue here that I have with this riot is that they don't know what they're angry about. You know, well, they kind of do, but what they're being extremely angry about is like a misdirection towards the actual robbery that is happening for them.
Yeah, right. You can't be angry at an immigrant who stole your job if there's enough jobs for everyone, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's certainly an element of like economic anger here, where there's sort of a perception that immigrants have it easy in the UK. But I think this is different from like race in the United States, where it's like the United States has always been a multiracial country, so there is sort of like this idea that like Hispanics are coming in to take American jobs for low wages, whereas Britain has had like a multiracial society for a lot shorter amount of time. And I think this is like,
that's true.
I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but it's like I just think this is different than like defensible economic
a stronger
anxiety.
holdout of supremacy.
Yeah, I think this is different from like the excusable economic anxiety in the United States. This is like just blatant insanity. Like I would say I don't defend the riots in the UK at all. Completely denounceable. I don't even think they're happening for a good reason. Like I think they're unconnected to the economy is what I'm saying. I think these guys would be revolting no matter what.
I remember when we had that conversation about if you remember the Tucker Carlson Putin interview, and I think I mentioned after discussing the interview, I just couldn't relate at all to anything Putin was saying because it was just too old world brain for me, like too focused on 1,000-year-old stories and things like that. This UK at the end of the day is an old world country, right? And so there is a lot of things that just are very different when it comes to the way they look at race and culture and ethnicity, etc.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm more plugged into the UK than you guys are, so I feel like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I feel more disgusted by this incident.
Yeah, I've been medium plugged in. I don't know the most about this one, but I feel like if the economics for in my opinion, if the economic situation was better over there, this would probably not be as big a thing as it is nearly. And also like it's kind of impossible to say with stuff like this, but like, let's say people were doing fine, there would be so many less incidents like this that for people to get as furious about stuff.
I think the only
there is still, like you said, like an old head kind of racist bastion.
I would say the only connection I think this has to economics is that if the lumpen proletariat as a class of like permanently unemployed, borderline criminal people was smaller, as you would see in a good economy, these riots would be smaller. That's, I think, the only connection to the economy that I see here. But that's sort of a very heady Marxist analysis. Yeah. Anyways, that's the situation in the UK. Not great, but it hasn't been great there for a while, so... they've been on a slow downswing since their empire collapsed. But what can you
bad material conditions all around.
Yeah. Anyways, is there anything else we wanted to cover this week?
I've got what I wanted.
Yeah.
The UK's slow collapse, and like, it's weird because they're doing all this textbook stuff. Where, well, how do I say it? It's becoming textbook because of them. Where you look at the UK. And it's like, this is such a great tutorial on how to ruin an economy according to anyone that has done like an honest review of an economic scenario. It's like, oh, what do you want to do with housing? Okay, let's sell off all the low-income housing and then make it so that landlords can increase rent at any time that they want. And then what happens? 45% of pre-tax income is spent on rent. Pre-tax. So that's like 60% of people's income probably. Like, so much money is just getting like hucked into monopolized like rent seeking, which is a non-productive thing. What else do? You sell off all of your shit and then do exactly the same thing, where it's just like all your utilities get sold off and your fucking rivers get sold off, and then the rivers become like unswimmable, the utilities no longer work properly and also become more expensive, and it's like they've done an economic self-destruct. And it's brutal. It's kind of brutal to watch, and I guess that's where I kind of come from. I am not as in tune about like racial stuff over there, but I am relatively in tune with the economic situation, and like, good lord, does it suck.
Yeah.
At least mostly Britain, but yeah.
But it's been a massive success for their upper class.
Maybe Keir Stalin can arrest 10,000 more people and bring it back.
Yeah, the only downside to the British upper class is that they don't like this sort of thing. Like, they're unaffected by the riots, they just don't like the optics of it. So that kind of annoys them, but I think they would rather continue privatizing everything than go back on what they've done.
Well, they probably don't see any correlation between the downturn of the economy and the upswing in their life to everyone else, because they're probably going to all of their charity drives and donating a bunch of money, but it's only money that they were able to extract, you know? Like, the issue is that whatever money they donate, they have extracted way more. So they, in their minds, are being oh so generous and working oh so hard to fix everything. They think they're the heroes. But, like, they're just, you know, it's...
Yeah. Anyways, I think we should leave it off there. We've been talking for, like, literally almost 3 hours.
Yeah. And we'll, now that I've got this kind of set up, I've switched rooms, so sound should be better. I'm on a desktop, like my desktop now. Recording in a whole different location, so hopefully this brings it together more and helps me, you know, be more consistent. And
bye.
See ya.
Catch you guys around. Bye.